mean that they definitely went that route. So if they were going to invest $10,000 in the in-person event, we gave them the flexibility to say you can roll all that $10,000 into the virtual event, but there's also packages at different price levels. So if they, could only invest $5,000, we also had a package for that. But what we wanted to do is make it as easy as possible for them. So if they had that $10,000 already earmarked for the in-person event, if we could give them a package that was very compelling at that price point, it was easy to just convert those funds over. We did create additional package levels, again, for that flexibility. So if they still wanted to support HFMA and have a presence at the virtual event, but again, if budgets had changed, we did offer them those packages at different levels. And then I would say, if you can, be prepared to customize. We did that. We probably had about 6 packages for the annual conference, but then, after we started talking to exhibitors, they said, well, this package is great, but if you can swap this element out and add something else in, then it would really work for us, and we were able to do that. So here's a couple of examples of what we did with our packaging for annual conference. This is not all of them. I'm happy to share all of our sponsorship packages for both the annual conference as well as digital revenue cycle. If you guys are interested afterwards, just let me know. But for example, we had a package that was a 10x10 booth for the in-person conference. It also came with 3 of our executive connection meetings, which are preset 15-minute meetings that we put together before the conference, and they happen at the in-person event. And then it also came with conference badges. So again, for virtual, we wanted to keep something at that same price point. So at $8,900, we kept the 3 executive connection meetings. We added some conference badges for them. What we did is gave them a presence also outside of the conference. This is another thing to keep in mind, is all of the exposure they get don't have to be at the virtual conference. You can use other elements, use exposure on your website, use if you have webinars or other events, if you have e-newsletters, you can easily give them exposure that extends the life of their sponsorship beyond just the event. And that's what we decided to do. So we gave them 3 buyer's resource guide listings, and that's going to be up on the HFMA website all year. And that's our online directory that puts them in categories based on what products and services they offer. We gave them the conference attendee list, and then we gave them 4 banner ads in our HFMA daily e-newsletter. So again, beyond the conference, giving them some branding there. For one of our other packages, at the in-person event, we had a $45,000 package that included a 20x20 booth with the whole build out, all the furniture. They got 10 executive connection meetings with that package, and they got conference badges. So for the virtual, what we did is we incorporated some thought leadership. So they had the opportunity to actually present a sponsored session during the conference. They got the attendee list from that individual session. So that's where some lead generation came. They got those same 10 executive connection meetings, again, accomplishing that lead generation goal. They got some conference badges. They got about 15 BRG listings, that's the buyer's resource guide, and they got the conference attendee list. So again, lessons here are create the packages that are the same cost as the in-person event packages were, and then also get creative. It's not the same thing. We didn't do a virtual booth, but what we did is supplemented it with some other deliverables that would accomplish those same goals that they would have expected from the in-person event. And, we incorporated some elements that were not at the conference so that we could extend the life of that sponsorship. So our results, we had, and this was for the annual conference, we retained over $1 million in sponsorship revenue for our virtual event, which was huge. We didn't know what to expect going in, and we anticipated less than that. So we count that as a pretty big success. I'll be transparent. Every sponsor and exhibitor who was already committed for the in-person event did not choose to participate. And that's where that flexibility came in. If you offer people the opportunity to take a refund or to do other things, some of them are going to take you up on that. So we had about 40% of our exhibitors and sponsors who were planning to be a part of the in-person show were part of the virtual show. We did have some of those additional funds that were repurposed into other sponsorships outside of the event, and some did choose to roll over those funds to the 2021 event. We had really great results on our event evaluations, both on the format of the conference as well as the content that we delivered. Some of that was curated content, and some of that was sponsor generated content. So our education team worked really closely with the sponsors who did have sponsored sessions and made sure it was really educational. They weren't sales pitches. They were really taking trends that our business partners have heard about in the industry, and also some case studies, and then showcasing them that way. And I think at the end of the day, we did goodwill. We gave some goodwill to our exhibitors and sponsors, whether it was offering the refund or the flexibility to do what they needed to do with their sponsorship fees, or whether it was giving them a really great opportunity to still, have exposure during the virtual event and fill their pipeline, during a time when they couldn't travel and couldn't attend shows that they rely on.
We have a couple questions.
Sure.
On the executive connection, what was the item or thing that the provider was given to attend and participate in that executive connection experience?
Yeah, so we found providers who have participated in the program in the past really like it just because it's an efficient way to meet with business partners. However, we also offered a 1-year free membership for them to HFMA. So we did that with our revenue cycle conference. That's going to actually be a paid event, so you do have to register and pay a fee. So for that one, we're offering free registration for the event for them and 5 of their team members. So you can get creative on what you can offer.
And the other question was concerns about crossing the line of sponsorship to advertising, which our treasurer advises us we will have to file and pay taxes on that portion. And Rita and I talked about this briefly. I said, there might be some questions about advertising because it came up yesterday. And we actually did send a message to our director of accounting, and I have 3 very well written paragraphs from him that tells us how all of that works. And we will be sending that out after Fall President's meeting. So everybody will understand what the difference between sponsor value and where advertising might cross over. And I think that's it right now.
Great. So, I think the other thing that Tracy and I talked about before this session was, now that we're through the annual conference and we have our digital revenue cycle conference actually happening next week, she kind of asked me, where did the sponsors get the most value from the packages that we offered? And I'd say it's a couple of things. It's anywhere where you can create those connections, whether it's through a program like our Executive Connections, where you're matching the provider with business partners based on the needs of the provider and what the business partner can offer, things like that. I would say the speaking opportunities, and whether it's a session or whether it's presenting a short case study. With the Digital Revenue Cycle Conference, we're going to be doing some Q&A with the sponsors where they can share what they're seeing in the marketplace, what some of the biggest challenges of their clients are that they're helping them overcome, things like that. And then anywhere where you can bring the sponsors into the content in terms of facilitating breakout discussions. So we're doing a lot of that with the Digital Revenue Cycle Conference. So it doesn't have to be just branding, and it doesn't, I would say where they get more value is where you can connect them to the attendees. Like I said, through speaking, through breakout sessions, through preset meetings. That's, I would say, where they're getting the most value.
Thank you.
Thank you. So that's what we've learned so far, and happy to take questions on that. But I also really wanted to cover what's next and what will 21 bring and how are we planning for 2021. So again, before we jump into it, Jenna, if you can throw up a couple of questions, because I'm also curious about how you guys are planning for 2021. First question, how is your chapter proceeding with 2021 event planning? Are you guys planning for all in-person meetings? Are you planning for some in-person, some virtual? Are you not planning any events in 2021? Don't know. And I think we're missing one of the responses. I think there was supposed to be one in there if you're planning for all virtual. So that's okay. We'll roll with it.
Well, you can't answer it. We're done with our program. It's virtual.
How about for 2021?
2021 is the planning, the 3-day plan. We're just implementing what we've planned. It's going to be held March 2021. It will be all virtual.
Okay, thank you.
So lots of people doing virtual. Some are planning for some in person and some virtual. And then one more question, Jenna. So is your chapter planning any hybrid events for 2021? And what I mean by hybrid is you will have programming for people who will travel in person, but you will also provide programming for people who are attending virtually. It's almost like creating 2 events. I know it's a lot of work, but you'll see in a second that is actually what my team is planning for. All right, about split. Interesting. All right, so for 2021, some things that we had to keep in mind when we're looking ahead is, I just alluded to this, we are planning for hybrid events. I think we are in the mindset that some people, hopefully, will be willing to travel in 2021, maybe even later in the year, but we do know that some people may not be comfortable with that. So we do want to create an experience for the people who maybe aren't willing to travel, but still want to be involved. We're going to keep in mind social distancing, and I think even if social distancing relaxes a bit, there's going to be new expectations from attendees. It's that new normal. This is huge for us. We didn't have the luxury when we were planning annual conference and even digital revenue cycle conference to have a plan A and then a backup plan B and maybe even a plan C, but we do have that luxury now going into 21. So we are moving forward with multiple plans waiting in the wings depending on what's going to happen. And the other thing I'd stress is don't just make adjustments to your normal event. You may have to reinvent it. So I'll show you how we're handling that for planning for annual conference 2021 in Boston. So again, some people may not be willing to travel. So we are planning for less people to be face-to-face, and we're planning for that hybrid event. We need to factor social distancing. So we didn't just take the plan for annual conference in, the traditional exhibit hall and just widen the aisles. What we're doing is redesigning the whole conference footprint. And the other thing to keep in mind is attendees and sponsors still have the same goals in mind. They still want the same thing from a conference, whether it's in person or virtual. They want the attendance, they want the networking. Your exhibitors, want those leads and connections. So maintain the value of the conference, even if it looks different. So here is the sneak peek for what we're planning for annual conference 2021. Like I mentioned, we are rethinking everything. So if you think back to an annual conference, you typically have attendees going into education sessions in breakout rooms. They're, small rooms, and we kind of pack them full. We can't do that with social distancing. If we were to use the same education rooms, we'd probably have to have about 25% capacity. And is that the best way for a speaker to present? You've got probably a bunch of attendees who are going to want to attend sessions, will be at capacity, won't be able to do that. So what we're looking at doing is utilizing the entire exhibit hall for all the activities of the conference. So we're going to have different tracks, and there'll be different stages within the exhibit hall. So it's an open air concept. You can spread out, you can do mixed seating, you can have the social distancing because that space is huge. So concept would be to have the different tracks. So say you have 6 to 8 tracks all within the exhibit hall. Each different track has a stage, and then there's mixed seating, and then we're going to bring the exhibits into those different track areas. So it incorporates the sponsors into those different topic areas. So think if you're an attendee and you are very interested in analytics, you can go to that analytics stage area in the hall. That's where all the sessions on analytics will be. because there's different seating there, you can network with other people who are interested in the analytics topics, and you can interact with solution providers in their exhibits kind of around the perimeter that deal with analytics. So everything that you want around analytics is in that topic area. Say you want to move over to the revenue cycle track area and hear a few sessions on revenue cycle, and also interact with the exhibitors that are related to revenue cycle. Then you just move and go into that area. So we're going to deal with, the headphones so that everybody can hear each other, but it just gives us the opportunity to deliver the education and lay out the conference in a different way to adjust for that social distancing and what the, what the pandemic has delivered to us this year. The other thing is, if you guys have, on the business partner side, or if you've seen as an attendee, what we've been doing the last few years at annual conference, it's really providing our exhibitors and our sponsors with packages. So in the past, they used to have to buy space, and then they'd have to pay to ship everything, and then they would have to buy their sponsorship separately. And we're just going to continue on that trajectory and give them packages that make sense to up the ROI. So the packages will include not only that exhibit space in those content areas, but also the executive connection meetings. And we're going to give them, different ways to interact with the virtual and the in-person audience through speaking opportunities, through things like Q&A, through showing case studies and things like that. So that's the high level concept. As I said in the beginning, we love to get feedback. So I would love to, in the chat, put a couple of links to some surveys, just a couple of questions that I could get feedback from you all while Tracy is queuing up some questions.
I'm going to ask Ramona to unmute herself and ask the question you asked in the chat, Ramona, because I'm just not following it. So would you mind?
Sure. So my question was, with the $45,000 sponsorship that you had with the 10 executive connections, for smaller business partner outfits, that might be attractive if, I don't know if you guys have thought of it or even have done it already, where you can split that out, since our next annual conference is some ways out, and giving them an opportunity to split those payments up, almost like a pay plan, might be attractive to some of those other business partners, especially with budgets today.
Yeah, I think that's great. And we have worked with our finance team to offer flexibility on payments. So we've been doing a lot of that, the payment plan, some upfront, some along the way. That's a great suggestion.
Thank you, Ramona. Is there anyone else that has questions? If you would raise your hand or put it in the chat and we can ask the question for you.
And again, there's 2 links in the chat. For those of you from provider organizations, I have one link in there, and then I have a couple of different questions for those of you who are from a business partner organization. So again, if you would, just click on the appropriate link and help us with some feedback.
So we can actually offer these links at the end of the day too. So if you want to, go back and do the surveys, they will be open throughout the day. And then we'll get that, well, Rita can go into Mentimeter and get the results after you guys take the time to do that. So we really appreciate the feedback. I don't see any other questions coming in, and I don't see anybody, unless I'm missing it. Jenna, is there anybody raising their hand? I have my chat open, so it's harder for me to close that. Yeah, I'm not seeing any other questions. So with that being said, if you come up with any questions throughout the day, please don't hesitate to send those over to chapter@hpma.org, and we will get that information to Rita so she can help with the answers to any of your questions that may come up throughout the day. So thank you, Rita. We appreciate your time.
Thank you. Good luck, everyone, with all of your sponsorships. I know it's tough. Thank you for all you do for HFMA.
Are you guys seeing my screen?
Yep, Venti.
All right. Well, for some reason I got a thing on my screen that says, "Sorry, we couldn't connect you."
Oh, I see it.
Which is awesome. So, All right, so I just wanted to take a little time to get some feedback from you guys when we started. So if everybody could log into menti.com, and then the code to enter today is 6849018. And we're going to just kind of go through a few things in regards to some of the things that Rita mentioned regarding virtual conferences, as well as what is forward thinking. You know, how are we going to move forward with some of these maybe hybrid models, or when we get back to live events, et cetera. And I'm going to run through what we are doing with early, but what we're planning for LTC 2021. And of course, we're in the very early stages of planning. However, it's important for us to be transparent in what that plan is, because it will impact some of the individuals traveling, from volunteers, or maybe not wanting to travel in some cases. So we just want to be mindful of how everything is going. And it looks like I had a lot of coffee this morning as well. So I will try not to talk really, really fast. If anybody knows me real well, the more coffee I get, the more my hands fly up in the air. So I'm trying not to be that girl, because when I do this, my hands go away and I look kind of funny. So I'm going to try not to do that this morning. But oh, cleaning up dog poop, that does not sound like a good idea. Holy buckets. Okay,
That was not me, by the way.
I was like, come on. Oh, that's frazzled. Oh, we're gonna help with the frazzled. I wish my kids could go to school. Like, they're still home doing virtual school, and we compete for internet, you know, internet bandwidth. My son came out and he's like, "Are you going to be on that meeting all day again today?" And I said, "Yeah, I am actually. And I'll start before you so I can make sure that I capture all the bandwidth before you get on." And he was so excited. So, all right. So where are you coming from today? Chapter, region, I know that we have a lot of people with us, but we're kind of curious to see where everybody is located today. And I know that Pilar is in the mountains again, according to her picture. She was by water earlier this morning, and I was really jealous because it looked amazing. And then she reminded me that it was after an annual conference that she attended and was the course coordinator. And then that, you know, kind of made us even reflect on a few other things about course coordinators and how bad our feet hurt, et cetera, at the annual conference. Fall President's meeting isn't as bad for, you know, I don't have to have an extra suitcase for shoes, but wow, we've got a lot of places. Awesome. Got representation from almost every region, it looks like. Oh, I think we do now. Awesome. I'm gonna wait just a minute because it looks like things are still flying in. I'm a happy clicker too. I click really fast. Ask Jenna. She loves when I click on things and make things go away. And then I'm like, "Why has this gone away?" She's like, "Would you quit clicking?"
Get your finger away from the clicker.
Awesome. All right. So now, what shared service solutions would be beneficial? And I know that Joe mentioned a few things in his opening session yesterday. And, you know, we have been listening for a long time. And Chapters 2.0, you know, the administrative support task force really kind of looked at a lot of the admin burden. So, you know, trying to lift those things up and, you know, see what the association could support maybe more efficiently, and even from a fiscal responsibility type, you know, thing, we need to be more mindful of that. So just kind of capturing some of these things: hotel contracting, Menti, Zoom, virtual programming, social media. We're going to cover some of this: event websites, contracting technology platforms, event support for Zoom. And you know what? Somebody asked us yesterday to Zoom on Zoom. So we're actually going to play off of that. So we will be doing a Zoom on Zoom recording. I think Erica has already got it on my calendar for tomorrow. So we are going to do a quick tutorial for everybody on Zoom, but I will encourage you, if you have questions. I did a lot of YouTube videos, and my attention span is about a 2-minute video, maybe 3 minutes if you're lucky. And so there's quite a bit of information out there: how to do breakout rooms, how to manage meetings, should you use a meeting or a webinar, you know, just a lot of the functionality on the back end. But please know that your chapter relations team, all of us, are very well versed in Zoom, but we will put something together on Zoom here in the next week or so. So virtual broadcast team hybrid virtual live. That is an awesome idea, and I have some resources that we're going to be sharing here in a minute. Website admin, contracting, speaker, website management, event. Okay, these are all awesome. Thank you for providing that. So now rank the following for immediate support. And these are the things that have come out of either conversations at the Regional Executive Council meeting and or you know, talking with chapter leaders and the main pain points of website management. And the Michigan Great Lakes chapter, being a new chapter, they you know, had a lot of questions about how they were going to move forward with website management. And so we're starting to design that website for them and hosting it actually on HFMA's platform. With that being said, we know that there's different levels of websites. So we might be, and I always use cars as my versions of the website, only because I like to say, like, you know, Tesla is probably the top of the line. And then I always throw out Pinto. And if you're younger, you might not know what that is, but back in the day, that's where you didn't want your parents taking you to school in that car. So whatever that car was when you were growing up, you know, that's the car that is. And it's just a basic version. It gets you where you need to go, but it's not hard to maintain. The Tesla version would be, is there blogs and videos and, you know, different things that they can interact with. Is there an SSO involved, etc. So SSO is single sign-on, where they would have to validate their membership or their something along that line. So event, webinar support, website management, technology. All right, I think that is everybody in? I'll give just a second. It looks like we have a few more people. So that is awesome, and we are aligning in that way. So I know that Rita asked if everybody has, you know, what kind of you're moving forward with live events, virtual events, or hybrid model. So I'm kind of curious who has a contract to do, you know, have a facility, because in 2020 we've had really good success at getting out of the contracts due to the pandemic. In 2021, unless we have a, you know, uptick in another wave of cases, we're probably not going to be as successful getting out of some of these hotel contracts, because the you know, hotels are going to be wanting to make up some of that revenue. So with that being said, you know, Rita mentioned that we're not going to be holding the revenue or the annual conference with as many people. As you can imagine, we've had that contract for a very long time. That contract's been in place for years. And so we are looking to renegotiate contracts to reduce the spend at the hotels. And that's kind of why I asked this question, is because how do you manage that? And we've been working with the Swan and Dolphin in Orlando for LTC, and I'm going to share some diagrams here in a minute to kind of show you how we're working with the hotel to kind of come to that win-win situation for us to reduce what our spend is for food and beverage, and even from a room block perspective, as well as, you know, them not losing complete revenue, you know, from the side that, you know, they don't want to reduce it any more than we want to not have people present, you know, but in the environment that we're in, we have to move forward with what we know today. And sometimes that is harder to know. And so there's a lot of individuals that thoughts on travel is scary. There's some that are completely okay with it, and some that there's no way that they are remotely even ready to go to an airport, stay in a hotel. You know, I didn't have as much issue with getting to an airport as I did with, oh my gosh, I don't know that I want to stay in a hotel or get in an Uber. I was giving someone a hard time. I think it was George this morning. I was like, you know, I just don't know that I'm ready to get in that Uber car. I'm not ready to share that much space with somebody. But, you know, getting on an airplane doesn't bother me at all. So I'm not quite sure if my philosophy is in the right place or not. But, you know, everybody's comfort level is different. It doesn't mean it's wrong or right. So one of the things that we're looking at for a hybrid model is, how do you know if somebody doesn't want you in their bubble? You know, that has been a question of, maybe I'm okay to travel, but I'm still not ready to hug. And if anybody knows me, I'm a hugger. And, you know, I don't think that will happen for me, but, you know, we need to be mindful of that when we're making name tags. Do we need to color code them? Do we need to have wristbands that are red, yellow, and green? And red means get in your own lane and don't get in mine. And green means come on in. I'm all in. Coming in hot. And there's a few people that will say coming in cold, Tracy. So they like me to not come in hot, but it's all good. I will say
hey,
that.
Tracy?
Yes.
Tracy, it's Mike. I think there needs to be another option here.
Uh-oh.
The option that I want to, but I don't know if my employer will let me.
Well, and that's another thing. I really was just going for comfort level here. And we've asked that, the employers, we get a lot of feedback through those surveys that Rita has been talking about from our sponsors. So we know a lot of the restrictions that are out there, especially on the provider side. There's some other business partners. I think Blue Cross is one that is not allowing any travel through 2021. And we were notified that, I think it was last week that we heard that. So I'm just kind of curious where everybody's comfort level is. And we don't want you to do anything that goes against the policy of your employer, obviously, because most are, supportive of HFMA. And if you go against that, they may not be as supportive in the future. So we will definitely, make sure that everybody is in alignment. But that's a great point, Mike. Thank you. All right. So, I just wanted to, we want to, oh, what did I do wrong here? Brianna, how do I get the bullets to come up? Oh, never mind, I got it. So,
You got it.
I know, yes, oh dear goodness. So the develop and maintain and design individual websites, that is something that we've been hearing for a really long time. Know that once we are developing some of the items that we would need, and we've had a few conversations with chapter leaders and regions around what is the end goal and what is the purpose. And that's kind of where we're at today to design some of those things. Create, maintain event surveys and web pages and Cvent. One of the biggest challenges since we went to the registration of, the combined or centralized area is training people annually is not ideal. And you barely get to know what you're doing, and then you're trying to pass the baton. Similar to other, when you're going up in the ranks of an officer, you really don't know what you're supposed to be doing until you're almost done. And then you're like, oh, that was fun for the 3 to 6 months that I actually knew what I was doing. And then, you're moving on to the next step. And Cvent is not one that is easy to it's not easy to pivot into that, oh, I finally learned it and now it's somebody else's turn to manage it. And that is one thing that I think we have a huge opportunity to start supporting at a better level than what is consistent. The event planning and execution, I was, watching all that, contracting hotels, speakers, planning the live event. That live event now looks hybrid, and Rita, alluded to that for the annual conference, but we're also going to be hybrid for LTC, and we'll review that here in just a minute. Host and promote webinars, speakers, Zoom, WebEx connections, etc. We have been working with Region 11, and Ramona, I may call on you just to share just real briefly the experience that Region 11 has had, but we are helping them promote, setting up Cvent, the marketing, working with the speakers and setting up that, and then executing Zoom the day of the event. Ramona, do you mind sharing just a few words?
Yeah, it's been a really good experience working with the association. They really have this, it's a well-oiled machine for them. It's been helpful because it's alleviated the stress on the individual chapters. It's been a stressful year, and so being able to have them help us with the marketing and the communications has been very, very helpful. So and then the day of the event, having them host it has been just a breeze, just because we acknowledge all of our sponsors. They work with the speaker. All we have to do is give them the speaker and the content, and then do the introduction, and they take it from there. And then working with doing a dry run before the event, and then the day of, just preparing and such. So everything's been really, really easy and smooth. So,
well, thank you for that. So Joe mentioned membership data management yesterday, and it's currently not automated. And I just wanted to clarify what that means. It is the automation of the Mike Rossi will roll over in his chair right now, but the automation of the members getting into Cvent, and then if they update their information in Cvent, how do we populate that back into, you know, their member records, et cetera. And so we're looking through some of that automation right now, but not that we haven't before. However, you know, that member data that we have in Cvent does not align a lot of times with what's in our member database. And the worry is that if we transfer Cvent data into our member database and it's not current, then we've lost current information. Or vice versa, if they haven't updated their profile and we populate that into Cvent, then we lose that information there. So we're trying to figure out what the best unique identifier is. In Cvent, it's the email, and in Salesforce, which is who we use for our member database, is a member ID number. So we're working through that right now. And accounting was the lowest one on our ranking list. So we'll navigate through that. I wanted to just mention marketing and communications, because that was one thing that came up during one of our council meetings, is that the REs were real interested in having chapter relations put together their social media post and having, you know, the same kind of branding. And so for membership spotlights and maybe some recognition for sponsors, even from past presidents, and just kind of aligning in Northern California and Arizona and Nevada and a lot of other chapters. I'm in Georgia, and I can't name them all off the top of my head, do a really, really good job. And then, you know, if you don't have somebody that has that skill set, we would be willing to take that on for you. So I just wanted to make sure that that was well known. I know that we've done some president messages for the Michigan Great Lakes chapter and a couple others as well. So if there's anything that you need, please don't hesitate to reach out to your chapter relations team for that. And with that being said, I'm going to move into sharing more of the granular details of how we're managing the process for LTC. So LTC for April, we have a contract for over 600 people currently. And when we asked them to do the social distancing within the room space and the diagrams, and said, you know, we don't know if we're still going to be in the 6 feet apart, so we have to plan as if we are. And when we plan that way, this is how many people we can have in our general session room. And this is our general session room. And the reason I show this is because with the social distancing and the staging that would need to be provided, as well as that green area in the back of the room over here, is the area for how we're going to manage the video and live streaming portion of individuals that can't be on site. And so you have to have a space, and I don't think that space is even large enough for what we're looking at from a production standpoint. However, it was a start. And so this is how our conversation started with the hotel and renegotiating our contract. As you can see, there's 202 people that fit in this room. Of before we had social distancing, we could fit up to 700. So that just gives you kind of, now I'm not saying that's what everything looks like, but I did want to share this room. As you can see, is much different size and different, but this would have been where we would have held something like the president-elect or the program track at LTC. And as you can see, there isn't even enough for a quarter of the people that we would have had in that room to be able to, you know, share information. And then this room is even smaller, and this would be 2 rooms that we could have combined and had one of those sessions. But because of the way the layout is of the room and where the doors are, it doesn't allow for that same spacing to happen, because those doors can't be closed and you have to have them open because of fire codes, etc. So you couldn't have the staging or the, you know, the projector in some of that area where that service door is, and or where the doors are opening in the counter. So I just show these things to you because when you start to work with a hotel on either A, renegotiating a contract, or B, understanding how many people you really can have in a certain space, these are the things that we would encourage to ask for. if you need help with that, I am more than happy, and there's others on our team that would be more than happy to join you on your calls. I've been on several chapter calls with hotels, and it's just, it's when you know exactly how to ask things, sometimes they go, oh, they really do know what they're talking about, and now we are going to have to work with them on the reduction in the spend of what is happening. I'm gonna pause there because I don't have my chat open because I'm sharing my screen. Is there any questions before I move on that? Tracy, TY, did you raise your hand? Oh, okay, were you stretching? Any questions in the chat, Jenna?
I am scanning those now.
Okay.
Yeah, we've got a couple. Do you think that hybrid events will dilute from the in-person exhibitors' ability to connect with their attendees?
So that's a great question. We are working through some of how do we connect them virtually and on site. So you know what, that's a good segue. We'll just go. I wasn't really ready for this, but this is and I was in here earlier. This is Crowd Compass at its fullest potential. And so we asked Cvent for their sales demo because I'm like, I don't have time to build this and you have it already, so I want access to it. We won't have access to this forever, but I just wanted to show this to you because this is an idea of how you can connect them in a virtual atmosphere. They can put their Zoom links in here and they can set up their own meetings with individuals. We also use we're also using Zoom for our executive connections, and we will continue that even when we're on site. So there's a lot of details that go behind that we're still trying to, navigate through all of the what ifs and how do we, make sure that the return on investment is there, especially when we get people on site. And then we have, the virtual component. So the timing will definitely be interesting, just because we'll need to make sure that the executive connections, if we have those, that the virtual ones are set up at a certain time, and then the live ones, if we can have, a big round table with a couple people at it with the social distancing that applies, all of those things kind of go together. So did that answer the question? We're still trying to figure it out on our end. We will definitely have the same available for the virtual experience as we do for the live experience. And let me just mention something on here is thinking about networking. And somebody asked me yesterday, what is it that all is entailed to be able to broadcast something like this from like LTC. It's very minimal, and Jeff and Michelle are going to be doing a live streaming presentation after, here in just a little bit, but they put together a really good program, or really good presentation for LTC, but it was basically how do you take your live event and live stream it to others, and it's really no different than what we're looking at from a hybrid approach. The technology that is needed to do that is two different things. So you have to have your equipment. You have to have a camcorder, the lab that goes into the laptop, and then the connection between the camera and the laptop, and then you're streaming on Zoom. So Zoom actually is a connection that you can connect to your YouTube channel. I think you have a Facebook Live option. We don't recommend that as much as like YouTube, because you can have a private channel on YouTube and then it's just live streamed through there. And so there isn't a whole lot of lift if you are using like WebEx. They have the same type of ability to live stream anything that is on similar to what we're doing today. If we were live, we would just be broadcasting with a camera in the back of the room, and everybody would be seeing what was being delivered live. So I'm gonna kind of go back to my diagram here just for a second. When we're on site at LTC today, our plan is to not have individuals move out of their room. So, I mean, of course, to go, on a break and that type of thing, but you will have your own space. Like once you get there, your space for all day Monday is going to be your space for all day Monday. If the general session is in a different room or somebody's speaking in a different room, you'll have the same streaming in that room that the people at home are experiencing. The reason that we're going that route is because we really don't know where, flu season will be just kind of ending. We still have some things to get through with school. You know, we really don't know where we're going to be in alignment. Florida is not going to be one that will let us out of our contract. They have already had meetings for 200 people, 250 people within the last few months, and they feel have been successful. And so to get out of this, you know, is probably not going to happen. So we're moving forward as if we're going to have that many people on site. And then, you know, we have to be able to have that same experience on the day that we're there, you know. So networking is one that I think the production is a little bit different. So we're looking at a 360 angle camera that could scan the room. So if we're in a networking, you know, area that is social distance, we want to be able to share, you know, what everybody's doing, but we also want to see them. And so that's the component where, you know, we want to be able to see everybody that's at home too. And what can we do that's all together that they're contributing to either, you know, a team activity. And there's a few things that we're kicking around. We don't have all the answers yet, but that's kind of where we're at with everything, you know, everything that we're planning today with where we're at with the hotel. So I will pause again before I move on, because I'm going to move on from LTC into some of the other things that we wanted to cover today. Any questions?
Yep. There was a follow-up question.
Okay.
That I thought, since you were talking about, or you were showing the Crowd Compass, is Crowd Compass affordable at the local chapter level, or is it something that we could utilize from the association?
So great question. So our contract with Cvent, so Crowd Compass is part of Cvent, and we have so many apps already built into our contract. So we wanted to be able to get a reduced cost for those apps, you know, when we renegotiated our contract a few years ago with Cvent. So we included the apps in our contract. So the association has those available for the chapters and regions. We will build them for you at this point. If you have an event that you want to use this atmosphere for, we will take that responsibility. We've done it for, we're doing it for Florida right now. We're doing it for Region 2. We've offered it to other regions that are moving forward with maybe either a virtual or hybrid event. But we don't, you know, the way to navigate the back end of Crowd Compass isn't, well, you can not imagine, it's just not easy or intuitive. So if you have somebody that has a marketing background on your team, awesome, and they would probably be great. However, you know, we eat and breathe this. Well, I don't, but there are others that eat and breathe. I know more than I want to at this point, but please let us take that heavy lift. So I will tell you, we've been looking at, because of 2020, you know, kind of where we're at, we have a lot available still, because we haven't had live events where we had that event app that was needed for regional conferences, multi-chapter conferences, you know, spring conferences, just different things that it's always been utilized for. So we are going to have a discount available for everybody through the end of 2020. I say that because if you let us know before the end of 2020 that you even want to use it in 2020, 2021, in 2020, I can't talk right now, 2021, I know, right?
Yeah.
I knew I said too many 20s. So if you want to utilize that app in, you know, 2021, we can give you that same pricing. So today, if we, like before today, the contract is right around $1,500, and I don't have the exact amount for each event app. Now, I will tell you that I'm still working with Bill and on the cost for this, but I'm going to tell you it's probably going to be right around $1,250, $1,225, somewhere around there for each event, and by the end of 2020 if we know about the event. And again, we will help you build that on our end. With this, if the registration from Cvent, all your event data, everything from sessions to attendees, all that stuff is synced with Cvent. So none of those things have to be built. This, like about the event, actually comes over from Cvent in your event information. These extra things down here, that needs to be created on the Crowd Compass side. And so when you look at all the things that are available, the biggest things like the virtual library, I think is one of the things that is useful, only because this is something that you you can create, and people can come here, hover over this. If I click, I can see everything that's going on in this specific section. So if I have an expo hall and I'm on site and virtual, I can see whoever is in the expo hall. You can design this however you want. If you want to have your sessions here, if you want to have a lounge, and they can click on here and go to a Zoom link if they're virtual. There's just different things within this virtual lobby that we didn't utilize for Fall President's Meeting. The other thing that I want to just point out is there's a survey that if you wanted to have an event or a specific survey for like a business partner that is higher level sponsorship and they want to ask certain questions of the attendees, you can run it through here and not necessarily an event feedback or a session feedback survey. This is specific to, surveys, and then they would be sent out from a notification standpoint. The event poll, you can have different polls going on during the event that don't have to be session related, and those also can be done throughout. They can do it the web version, or they can do it on their phone through that. This click is the scavenger hunt that is in Fall President's Meeting. Click is usually an added expense with Event, and we've been able to negotiate that that's included on all of our Crowd Compass apps. So it does take a couple days for that to get added, only because it's not currently on our apps within our Crowd Compass. But if you want to have the scavenger hunt, there is no additional cost if you utilize HFMA for the access into Crowd Compass. So there's a lot of other things out here. I'm not going to get into everything, but if you want to know more, don't hesitate to reach out to me or Erica on our team. And again, just email chapter@hfma.org. Everybody gets, those emails get directed to the appropriate person. So I am going to, is there anything else, Jenna, that needed to be covered?
No, just lots of kudos to Oregon. Looking forward to hearing from them today.
Well, we are looking forward to Oregon as well. So we have a couple different things that we put together. The Revenue Cycle Conference. So at annual conference, we noticed that the lighting and some of the microphones from some of our speakers when we were recording or if they were live, some of the quality wasn't quite there. So our marketing team put together a package that now is being sent to all of our Revenue Cycle Conference speakers at the end of this month. And you can order these things on Amazon, and we can send the links out. One of the things that is interesting is these, there's a couple people that said, oh, I don't have a place to plug in the lav, right, or in my computer. But the light is amazing. It has like different settings, so you can have a low light, a high light, or even a dark, if you're too bright, it can make you darker. And so these are things, and all of this combined is less than $40. And so we're just letting the speakers keep them. So there's no, shipping and all of that. We're using Amazon Prime. And so there is no shipping cost to send it to the speakers, and we'll populate these things. But what I wanted to share is we put together some of the reasons for these things, right? And why, and I think the Zoom on Zoom, when people were asking about that yesterday, had a lot to do with the speakers and how do we know if their technology is set up, and how do we help them out. And we've put together a little tutorial about everything on things that you need to know about Zoom audio, Zoom video and background, and then these are my favorite, what not to do, and if anybody knows Greg on our team, he is the funniest guy ever, but he's like,
those are awesome.
I know, and so when I was taking these still shots of him, I had to just laugh, so we had a lot of fun with it. But we will populate this in the community for everybody, but these are things that you don't have to recreate the wheel. And I'm not going to go through all the resources that we have, but please do not hesitate to reach out to us so we can definitely, and we'll start. I know that one person said that we don't know what we don't know, and you guys know so much. So how do we know what we don't know and you know? And the best thing is we're trying to communicate as quickly as possible, but things are changing so rapidly that sometimes we think that, oh, we've shared that, but we really, we probably shared it back in April, and really, is it relevant now? No. And so what we're going to do is we have these chapter relations touch bases once a month, and every month there seems like there's more people that are joining. So I just want to mention that, because any chapter leader is available to come ask questions. Sometimes they're themed around, like in August we had one around membership. Last month in September, I already think we're done with September, but no, a couple weeks ago we didn't have any specific topics, and we were there for an hour answering questions, reviewing some things, sharing our screen, but just know that we are here for any type of those resources. I'm going to stop sharing now so I can see everybody again. So with that being said, I know that that's a lot of information, and from the support standpoint, if you need help with webinars or events or setup an event, please don't just reach out to us. And so I can't reiterate that enough. I know I say it a lot to everyone when I'm on regional calls or even chapter board meetings. That's another thing. If you guys are covering how to plan your next year, please don't hesitate to ask one of us to join, because we can, deliver that message live, and then you're not coming back and trying to get the information. And then, that in between and going back and forth just causes a lot of delays in communication, as well as then you're waiting on a response. And sometimes I'm going to tell you, I don't mind getting on a thing, but my emails, I'm in constant email jail. And I know Mike Rossi made fun of me yesterday and said that I just delete his emails when they come in and I never see them. And, that is true for him, but it's not true for the rest of you. Like, I really don't delete anything. I auto delete Mike Rossi when he comes in. Like,
that was perfect.
Yeah. So I just say that because I know I can give him a hard time. But I don't know, are there any other questions that I can answer before? I don't know how long I even had to talk. I just
no, but you should read the chat.
Oh dear goodness.
Tracy,
Barbara.
Yes.
Can you just say which community group you're going to post that Zoom info in?
So we'll post it in the Leadership Connection, the one that is available to everybody, and it will go into the library. And Brianna, is there a specific spot you'll put that in?
Yep, I was just typing it, but it will be, we have information out there right now, but the new information will also be added, and that would be in the Library of Leadership Connection. The folder is Leadership Conferences and Webinars.
So Linker, I see that you say, can you give us the specs on the ring light? Sounds good. I will send you the actual link to Amazon because I don't know anything about the specs, but that's the one we're using. So we'll just give the Amazon links also in our recap from Fall President's Meeting, and then we'll put it in the Leadership Connection. So if you don't, you don't remember where you put the recap, it'll definitely be out there. Okay. Oh, Barbara, thank you. They took. Did you order them? That's awesome. Good. Oh, you're on mute, sweetheart. I see you talking.
We are in the process of getting the mailing addresses for the speakers.
Perfect. Yeah, so we are helping Region 2 deliver their virtual conference in October. And unfortunately, we were going to be on site, and I'm on the red list now. I'm not on the list available.
New York is New York.
I know. So, but the good news is Erica on our team lives in New York and will be able to help if needed on site, and I will be working fiercely behind the scenes remotely. But if you're trying to navigate some of those things from a technology standpoint, I noticed that earlier when we did the where people were given information, Mentimeter was mentioned a couple different times, and we would be more than happy to run anything from a happy hour, to just helping with the networking or putting on some of those things. And we have a lot of, so Mentimeter actually has a lot of different templates out there that if you just want to have fun and you just want to populate a trivia, there's a ton out there, and you don't have to recreate the wheel, and you just carbon it over and put your branding on it, and have some fun during a virtual get together. It's good for breakfast time, like if you guys want to get together for coffee and have coffee with your volunteers or that type of thing. I know that am I presenting in Florida? I'm just joking, Robert. I just wanted to see your face. So when I present in Florida, I'm gonna use some of the tools that we're using, just because I think the interactive part of it is so important. And when we started, moving from live to virtual, we had to learn how to keep the engagement. And at first we were not good at it. I'll just be honest. We were doing status quo, and we were getting a C+, but we had a lot of improvement to make. Now I feel like we're more in that average B range, but we still have a lot of improvement. But in this atmosphere, I've been telling my kids, sometimes you're going to get that B and it's okay. And even if you get a C, we'll make it through it. That is not something that we need to stress about right now. We'll make this through it together. And we are definitely want to be that one HFMA and be your complete resource. So don't hesitate. If we can't do something, I'll be the first one to tell you too. The virtual exhibit hall, I think Florida called me, I don't know how many times. Are you sure that we shouldn't be looking at this? And I'm like, well, for $20,000 to $50,000 for an event, I'm not sure that's really going to be where we can be right now. And so we looked at things, and we demoed a few back and forth. And I think that we finally landed on, Florida's going to try the Crowd Compass. And then Cvent also has a new virtual platform that they are just starting with. They did their Cvent Connect on it. It's very similar to how Crowd Compass is, but there's just a little bit more of a virtual feel to it. And there's a cost involved, and it's not in our contract. So we're talking with them to see what kind of pricing we can get for that. But that pricing just out of the box without even negotiating anything is right around $7,500 per event, which is way cheaper than what we were getting back from, quotes. And I don't know, Robert, if you want to expand on that at all. Just from what you guys have experienced and getting quotes.
Yeah, so what we've learned is if there's anything that needs to do with HFMA, we should go to HFMA first, because they probably have the same issues that we have. So we were just trying to replicate that in-person experience, obviously in a virtual environment. So looking at what was out there, and the price points were just not for us as a chapter. So thank you, Tracy.
No problem. So there was a question that said, so the association will run Menti for us, or do we need to get our own subscription? And the answer is, we will run it for you. You don't have to get your own subscription. So it's relatively inexpensive. It's under $500 a year. I don't know exactly how much it was, just because we purchased it. I believe it was right around $300 actually for the entire year. So it's not bad. And the reason that we did the paid subscription, because there is a free one out there, is because of the branding. We wanted to be able to give our sponsors, the image, and you cannot upload images in the free portion. So know that you can get your own subscription. There's no discount if we put you under our contract, or you get your own subscription. So we're more than happy to do it for you, though. So and since we've done so many, it's pretty quick for us to put a deck together. It doesn't take more than, I think mine this morning took me, I didn't put it together this morning, but the one that we went through just a little bit ago, I think it took me like 5, maybe 10 minutes to put together. So it's really, really simple. So please do not hesitate. That's when I say these things, they're like, how are you going to be able to manage all this? I'm like, really, once you've done it a couple times, you don't have to recreate the wheel. You can duplicate things. I actually stole Brianna's from something that she did a few, and I want to tell you though, I did the images in my own slideshow. I didn't have to.
I saw that, Tracy. I was impressed.
I know. So it's not, and I still was done within the 5 to 10 minutes. So any other questions? I know I went really fast and covered a ton of things from, events and just resources and technology. Zoom, I think we have over 28 or 30 people on our Zoom account now for chapters or regions. I know we have 36 accounts, so I'm almost positive 30 of those are regions and chapters. So if you don't have some way to deliver events and etc., please reach out to us, and we'd be more than happy to add you to the contract. We do get a pretty good rate, as well as we can share the licenses. And I know that we've come up a couple times where we had 2 people that wanted to use the 500 or the 1,000, you know, webinar license. We still to this day have not had to get a new one. Like we haven't had to expand our licenses yet in order to cover all the chapters or regions. And I know that we've been able to share with regions and chapters if they needed to just increase to that 1,000, you know, from 500 to 1,000 or from 100 to 500, you know, just periodically. If it happens often, you know, where we're trying to balance every time you have a webinar, you're wanting to use the more, you know, the capacity of more, we're probably going to have a conversation and just ask that you consider maybe getting the larger one if it's on, you know, consistent. But I will tell you, like, I don't remember what chapter it was, but they had one where they had just a great response to their webinar, and they needed, you know, they had over 200 people and they only had 100 license for a webinar. And so we, you know, let them borrow one of the 500 webinar, and it was great. With that being said, most of our webinars, especially if they're free, we're seeing about a 60% connection rate. So if you, you know, and that's maybe even on the high end, depending on what the topic is. If somebody, you know, a lot of people have competing things for work and different things, and if they didn't pay for it, a lot of times, and if they know that it's being recorded and they don't need CPE, that's the first thing that's going to come off of their schedule. So know that if you're at like 110 and you have a webinar license for 100, you're going to be okay. You're not going to go over that 100 unless you're used to having 100% participation, which if you are, then please know that, you know, let us know what you're doing so we can tap into that marketing and figure out how we get 100% participation. So I'm being told I'm done. I'm just joking. I just got a time check, so I will pause and ask if there's any other questions, and then we'll move on.